Hey everyone, it's Ryan. Welcome back to another episode of the Skid Steer Nation podcast. This week, I'm excited to bring to you a gentleman named J.R. Laborie. He's out in Nebraska. He had a really cool, unique journey in how he ended up in Nebraska, how he ended up in the excavating world, and how he's really niched down into more utility work than anything else. We're going to discover how he thinks through jobs, how he thinks through opportunities. A couple big key takeaways this week is opportunity cost. If you're saying yes to a few things, what are you saying no to? Are you evaluating what jobs and what niches you want to be in versus just producing an invoice to generate revenue? We're going to get into the 80-20 rule and how you guys can apply that in not only your business, but also your life. We talk a lot about systems and processes, not so much in the minutia of them, but just like understanding you do everything in some sort of a system or a process, whether it's a chaotic one or a good one, and then how to recognize those and repeat and duplicate the other ones. And then as an owner, we're typically the bottleneck and the biggest issues in our businesses, and how to kind of address that and how to recognize that so you can battle plan through that and get through that. Great episode. It's a long episode, guys. We talk for almost 2 hours. So buckle in. The guys that are in the trucks and the machines, I know I can see a fist pumping now, like, yes, finally he's back and he's doing long episodes. So this one's for you, fellas. Don't forget that it is brought to you by Skid Steer Nation, your home for high quality American-made attachments. We've been having a killer year over at Skid Steer Nation this year. Our vendors have been amazed at how much equipment we've been selling this year. So if you guys out there have been purchasing your skid steer attachments through us, I just want to say a deep heartfelt thank you, and keep listening to the show and enjoy this one, guys. Well, JR, man, I really appreciate you joining us this morning. It's a Friday morning. It's nice for me to have a cup of coffee instead of something with some energy in the middle of the afternoon to keep me driving through the day. So it's a nice little change of pace for me, but yeah, appreciate you coming on. I'm excited to talk with you. You do some really cool things I've been reading about with your business, and I'm excited to dive into those.
Absolutely, Ryan. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. How's Nebraska?
Right now, dry.
Yeah,
we're incredibly dry. A little bit of drizzly stuff this morning, but it's not really moving the needle on that.
Yeah. Are you born and raised from this area?
No, I'm originally from Northwest Ohio. My wife and
Okay.
I both, and we moved out here 11 years ago.
Huh. I've thought about moving to a lot of places because I live in Illinois. Right. Nebraska's never made the list, so I have to ask, like, what brought you to Nebraska?
My wife is in extension beef cattle nutrition, so Nebraska's kind of the place to be if you're into beef cattle. So
a hell of a place to be. Yeah, I'm excited to talk about that a little bit later because your wife seems like she's pretty smart cookie too, and you guys are doing some really neat things in the cattle industry. But so what were you doing for work when you moved out there for her passion?
I hired on with the county running a motor grader, started there and did that for a little bit, moved into manufacturing. That didn't last long, and then I just decided to go out on my own once we kind of figured out this is where we're going to be long term. So
very nice. Yeah, you just started with a single machine. Was that like 9 years ago now? Is that?
Yep, we're going on 10 years. So
going on 10 years.
Started with a single skid loader and just kind of went from there.
Well, I want to give you a shout out and a virtual high five, man, because it's tough getting to 10 years. And
yeah, I mean, it's not easy. It's always work, continual work, but I couldn't imagine doing anything else.
Yeah. You are really big into underground utilities these days. How did you go from a single skid steer 10 years ago to like this niche?
So started out single skid steer and a forestry mulcher. A lot of cedar trees in this area, pasture land. Was real heavy into that kind of before the big mulcher boom, we'll say. But then 6-7 years into it, I became very allergic to cedar trees. So tried different routes of action for that, couldn't kick it, and ended up selling off that part of the business. But even before that, we were kind of venturing into a lot of other things. Utility work kept coming up more and more. And I found that's what I really enjoyed doing more than anything else. So just really started pushing into that.
Yeah. Not many guys I talk to get into hydro excavating, and I'm assuming the need of that came directly because of the utility work.
Yeah. So I got into that because there's not really a lot of people around here doing it. And I found myself really needing it in places. And so I bought a pretty old used machine, well-used machine, low budget, took in the shop, completely refurbed it. And that's really taken off just because there's not a lot of guys in the area that do it. And it's low overhead, high profit. So.
Yeah. Do you just have one machine still?
Yes, we have just one hydrovac currently.
Okay. I find that the guys that do get into the hydro, they end up expanding it because the demand for it is so high. Just for, like you said, it's so easy to do jobs that other guys can't. And counties, cities, contractors, whatever it may be, they want that for for some certain projects. And you see these guys go from 1 to 2 to 4 machines fairly quickly sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, and that's something I could scale. It seems that's the type of machine, it'll sit for 3 months, but then we'll have 6 jobs in 2 weeks. So it's kind of when it's sitting there, it's not costing me any money. So it kind of ebbs and flows. And then the other thing is I don't really want to scale. I'm at a good size that works for me. My business is my lifestyle. So scale is something that I feel like there's a real squishy middle. You either kind of do it yourself with 1 or 2 guys or move to 12. I feel like that 3 to 12 range as far as employees is a squishy middle where it's just a lot of work and you don't really get the return on it.
Yeah. I mean, from my experience and doing work with a bunch of guys over the years and just looking at, I don't know how many bookkeeping ledgers for businesses, that 3 to 6 is the part that I'm like, get ready to eat some shit because you're going to make less money, have twice the headaches. But if you want to get to 7, 10, 12, 20 guys, it's a path you got to walk through. But that 3 to 6 is the worst.
Yeah, I agree.
I've seen a lot of guys get really successful with 7 or more because then you've got one large crew for large jobs, or you could divide them up into 2, sometimes even 3 for smaller, quick day jobs, things like that. But the flexibility is just not there with 3 to 6. Like you're just in that limbo land.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I think that's, there's one end or the other. I think you can be successful in both, but that squishy middle is just a hard place to be. And I don't want to be, 7, 12, 50 guys. That's not something I want.
Yeah. So did you learn that? Did you know that before you started the company, or did you grow to a larger size and pull it back down after experiencing it?
Yeah, I definitely was a little bit bigger. I had big trucks, side dumps, big loaders, stuff like that. And I'm a numbers guy. I'm always, I'm looking at how everything's cash flowing, what my return is. Profit's my big thing. You hear guys talk about gross sales all the time. My best gross sales year was my worst year profit wise, So I kind of got to that point where I was hiring, 3, 4 guys and I was miserable. I was just running around putting out fires. I got into this business because I like running equipment. I didn't get to do it, and you're just watching people tear your stuff up. Our area, low population, it's hard to find any help at all, let alone good help. I mean, I think that's a problem everywhere, but especially here. And so I just pulled back, kept my highest profit stuff, got rid of the least profitable stuff. And that's kind of where we're at right now. And it's always changing. I mean, every 2-3 months, I'm looking at things and
yeah. I got so many questions I want to ask you right now. When you remove the lower profit work, how many of your headaches went away with it?
Oh, like my side dump. I had an R model Mac and a side dump. Love that truck. But hated trucking. And it was a hard decision to make because I love that truck. And but man, once it was gone, it's like, what a relief.
Yeah. Well, there's like the philosophy. I mean, he's an old Greek philosopher, and if you guys have listened to the show, you've probably heard me say it 20 times. But Pareto, he had this 80-20 rule, right? Like 80% of your profit comes from your top 20% jobs. 80% of your headaches come from your bottom 20% jobs. You know, if you work for a volunteer firm, like if you not an EMS or an EMT, like I think you've got some experience in, but like if you're a volunteer at a charity, right? 20% of the volunteers do 80% of the work. It's just kind of a law, natural occurring law. It's the 80-20 rule. So when you said you removed some of the lower profit work, and I'm like, I bet 80% of his headaches went away when he did that.
Yeah, I mean, you're never going to get rid of them all, right? Like that's business. You know, when you're in business doing something, you're solving somebody else's headache, right? Like that's what they pay me to do is solve their problem. So I mean, there's always headaches, but man, just trying to always watch like what is the biggest thorn in my side, and do I need it?
Yep.
And you can't eliminate all of it because without some risk, there's no reward. But I'm just always watching. You know, one summer we had a big trucking job, riprap, like 3 months straight hauling riprap. And I'm sitting in there and I'm just like, man, I'm missing out on all this other stuff because I'm sitting in a truck. And like, it had to go. It's like I'm setting down dollars to pick up dimes. And and you hear it done in so many different ways, and guys will say it one way or another. And I don't remember who was talking about it. Actually, it was a software developer who was looking at a project that potentially could be worth $100 million or more. Like looking at the market area it could solve and all that. And I remember sitting in the room with him because I did introduce him to a friend who had the idea. And the guy's like, I love your idea. I just need to figure out, if it's the right opportunity for me. And I'm like, what do you mean by that, Adam? He goes, well, I've also got these 2 other things that I'm looking at. And there's the opportunity cost. Like if I'm working on this and I can't work on those, and what if that's the one that takes me to? And it was just the way he worded it differently, but like opportunity cost is a big deal. And I don't think many business owners understand it as well as they should. Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of where my business is focused is a lot of emergency work. So I try to keep a very open schedule because emergency work's high profit. But you got to be able to move. And right. If I have all my equipment tied up on a bigger job, and the bigger the job gets, the tighter the profit margin, right? Like you can still do really good, but I keep my, excuse me. I try to keep my overhead very low so it doesn't take a lot to keep the lights on. And then I'm able to keep a loose schedule and, really move on those high profit emergency jobs. And then you fill it in with some other stuff too, but I don't like being on site for more than 4 or 5 days. I mean, if it's a bigger project than that, I'm generally not taking it on.
Yeah. But I mean, I think just having some sort of a mental framework where you get an opportunity to bid a project or start doing a new service, right? What are you giving up in order to do that?
Right. I mean, there's only so many hours in a day. You really have to judge where is my time best spent. I mean, incredibly busy, incredibly active in many factions outside my business. So my time is very valuable to me. So it's always, what's going to get me the best bang for my buck.
Yeah.
In my day.
Let's go back to that life design that you were talking about. So obviously you grew the business. You were like, this is not worth it. The headache, I'm not as happy as I used to be. What was your process to redetermine what you wanted for your business so it fit your lifestyle, not the other way around?
It's just looking at, how busy am I? I didn't have kids when I started the business. I was traveling. Didn't mind traveling, being out for a week, 2 weeks at a time. You start having kids, that really changes things. Kind of like my family. I like my kids. I'm pretty fond of them. I like to be home at night. So that was a big shift. And just trying to, fit things. And that's another reason why I keep a loose schedule, working the emergency stuff. I'm wired for that as one part. And then that allows me a lot of flexibility to be able to go and do things and spend time with my family and travel and stuff like that when I can.
Yeah. I just think it's important as a business owner to always remember that we built the business with the vision of being able to pass something on or building a legacy, which is all life design, right? Yet we don't take that same vision and apply it to the next 3 months, 6 months, 3 years.
Right.
That vision that these guys start with the big legacy and all that, that's 1,000,000% sacrifice for the next decade.
Absolutely. And that's, where I had to draw that hard line. There was a point I wanted to be big, I think everybody does at some point. Yeah. I wanted to have crews and trucks and all this going on and stuff like that. And the more I got into it, the business was running me. I wasn't running the business, and that wasn't what I wanted. So that's when I scaled back to where I'm at now, and which really works and is able to keep me focused on what's important to me. And that's different for everybody. Some people want to be big and want to do that, and that's fine. But it's also okay to stay small. You always say, if you're not growing, you're dying. And I think that's false. You can maintain, but it's work to maintain. I think that's what people miss.
Yeah. Don't forget, though, if you're not growing, you're dying. I absolutely 100% agree with that. But you have to remember, too, if you're growing a business, then you're not growing yourself. That's the sacrifice, right? So I think you should always be growing, always be learning, always improving. It just depends on, is it on you and your family, or is it on your business? Because most of the time you can't do both at the same time.
Yes. I mean, that's where I like the maintaining, like it's work. And when I say growth, I mean size and scale. But
I know what you meant, but I just wanted guys to don't forget there's two sides of this coin, right? Like you can still grow.
Yes.
I've never met a guy who was working 80, 90 hours a week, growing his business. Talk about vacations, the last book they read, the conversations with their friends about not work related things. It's like they just kind of put themselves in a bubble of being whatever the business needs them to be. And then when they pop their head up, they're like, I kind of lost track of who I am and what makes me happy and what drives me as a person. And
so that's a huge balance. And that's something I've really worked on within the last year, is because, I have the excavation business. My wife and I ranch as well, fire and EMS. I'm in that, the church, the family. And I felt like I was always putting out fires, right? But while you're putting out one fire, something that's smoldering over here turns into a fire. So then you got to jump over there. And it's been a lot of work. But this year I'm trying to, everything's smoldering, but nothing's on fire. Trying to just balance all that and try to get away from the mindset of putting fires out and just trying to work a little bit on everything at the same time. it's a slower growth, but it's steady on all fronts.
Yep. And that's, God, I struggle with this still to this day, even at my age and with the experience I have in life. But learning to appreciate delayed gratification can be the biggest change in anyone's life. And I say that more from teachings, not always experience. I guess I could say it from experience, right? Because I'm the exact opposite sometimes of delayed gratification. Yep. But, what are you willing to sacrifice today, tomorrow, and the next year for what you want in 5 or 10 years?
Absolutely. It's trying to, a new piece of equipment or this or that shiny stuff that you want. Gosh, I've been wanting to replace my personal pickup for a couple of years now, like 340,000 miles on it. And I just keep chugging along, it's still running, it's still good. Because, there's always something more important than that to me. There will be a day I'll have to do something, but, could I go out and buy a new King Ranch Platinum Super Duty? And sure, but this old XL's still kicking along.
Still rocking.
So going,
It's funny you use the truck as an example because that's actually where I was going to go too, right? I've had mine for, I think we're going on 6 years now. And it's not that, it's a great truck. It runs great. It actually looks really clean because I'm not on job sites every day, but you just man, it's been 6 years, and you start telling yourself, it's almost like you're telling yourself a story to give you a reason to go do it. You're like, man, that those injectors or the turbo pump or the transmission, I should probably trade this in while it's still worth money. And I'm like, man, no, it runs fine. I've had 0 problems with it in 6 years. I really don't want to go take all the money out of the bank account, or the opposite side, get a loan for a new one.
Yeah.
It's other than me just being bored with this vehicle, what's the purpose of me doing it?
Right. And that's exactly where I'm at with mine. It's when I bought it, it was super clean. Like I said, put a boatload of miles on it, but we had a hailstorm 3 years ago and it got hailed. Never got the hail fixed. It just keeps getting a little worse and worse. It still runs good, but it's yeah. We went to a utility expo last fall, my wife and I, in 2 hours into our trip into Kansas, the AC goes out. And so I'm doing the math real quick. I'm maybe we'll just go in and trade it off, get a new truck. I did the math on it. And I'm nope, I think we're just going to keep driving this one.
Yeah. I always telling this story to the younger guys. It was 1996. I was a sophomore in college. It was a small town in Illinois. It was more of a farming community. Just happened to have a university there. And I became good friends with some locals and all that. And we were sitting, I think I was having lunch with my buddy who worked in the downtown square. And this old timer pulls up in this early 80s, so 15-year-old truck. It was clean, but starting to rust out and all that. And he just kind of gets out and hobbles in. And my friend Neil talks to him for a while. And I'm like, that good old boy farmer, man. He's like, those farmers live a different lifestyle. They're just keep it running, right? And he looks at me and goes, farmer? That some bitch owns the bank. But and I was like, and it didn't hit me until years later. I'm like, oh, the wealthy don't care about depreciating assets. They just don't care about depreciating assets.
No, that's, I buy in dollars and sell by the ton when it comes to equipment. That's just, I'm going to use it as long as I can maintain it and keep it going.
Yeah.
And go from there. And I think there's, from a marketing perspective, guys are always, you see the trucks that are all wrapped up and everything else. And I'm not knocking it. If that's what you want to do, great. But for me, all my work trucks, I try to keep them previous body style or one before, 1 or 2 body styles behind. It feels like that sweet spot of you're not showing up and looking like Chuck in a truck. But then you're also not showing up with a brand new Platinum with a wrap and everything. And especially around here, people are very money conscious. If I showed up with something like that, they'd be like, "Ooh, this guy is charging too much if he can drive that."
It's funny. Yeah. We have a roofing company here in town, and I guess being in the trades businesses, I have roofing companies. To me, I'm like, how many of those actually own a crew? Like, that's everything's subbed out. You're just a marketing firm wrapped in quotes.
Yeah.
Most of them are. There's a lot of good roofing companies too that I'm not saying all of them, right? I want to be clarifying that, but there's a lot of guys out there running around chasing roof work. Then they hire a couple crews that do work. But this guy's got every 6 months to a year a new truck and this gaudy lettering that's every bit of 24 inches tall. And then he puts the big rims on it. And I'm like, man, if I had a roofing issue and I found him on Google and he came out to my house to give me a quote, I'd be like, you can just turn around.
Yeah. I mean, it's perceived value, and that's where I feel like that 1 to 2 body styles behind. It's like, okay, he's doing good enough work that he can afford to not have a 1992, F-150. But also it's just, I think it's a good perception. And like I said, your results may vary. It's different for everybody. And I think that's something, with social media, and we're a lot more connected as contractors, right, than we've ever been. And what works in one area for one person isn't going to work for another. It's all different. What works for me isn't going to work for the next guy. There's so much difference in regions and clientele and stuff like that, cost of living. So it's nice to be able to see how other guys are doing things. But also, there is, you can't translate everything.
Yeah. You bring that up, and it's the double-edged sword, right? It's never been easier for a contractor, new or old, to connect and not feel like they're on an island because they can talk to other business owners that are in the trenches with them. It's never been easier to find an older guy to help mentor you a little bit. It's never been easier to ask a community about some questions like, hey, we're doing this particular job and I've never ran into this. Has anyone ever seen? Like, it's a beautiful thing in that side of the coin. The other side of the coin is that we are wired for survival only. And we start doing that self-comparison to everybody else, and we start kicking ourselves in the, where, because we're not good enough, or we're not doing jobs more profitable, or we don't have enough of the trucks or crews. And so that comparison angle is, the double-edged sword of it all.
Absolutely. And I've fallen victim to it before, because you don't see the whole story on Instagram, right?
Yeah.
And there was a guy I followed, and I'm like, man, this dude's going places. He's doing things. He's got, a small fleet of really new, really nice stuff. Like, he's doing, got these pretty cool jobs he's doing, and really kind of looked up to him in a way. And then one day, like, Instagram story, everything's for sale, right? He's wanting just payoffs.
Yep.
And because, over
leveraged.
Yeah, just over leveraged and great guy and everything. Nothing against him personally, but outside looking in, it looked like everything was great. Turns out it wasn't. So
yeah. So JR, it's, I don't know. I don't know how relatable this is to guys out there, but the concept's relatable. But over the last year and a half, I've rediscovered, I enjoy going out to golf, because it's a couple hours out in nature. You're still challenging yourself, but you go to YouTube and you can start looking at all these YouTube golfers. I'm trying to get better with my swing, right? And then there's this channel called Bob Does Sports, and they've got, 1.7 or 2.7 million subscribers. And it's 4 hacks. And they're just trying to get better at golf, and they're joking and laughing along the way. And like, their subscriber count versus most other people in that niche is so much higher. And I'm like, oh, you know why? Because they're relatable and they're trying to improve. They're not just showing you the highlight reel of what went right. And people want to see that, right? And I think businesses should take that more into account of don't air your dirty laundry, but when something bad on a job site happens, it's actually a great opportunity for marketing, because you can say, hey, this is what happens when you don't have a checklist for, maintenance of machines every morning. Like we haven't been doing greasing, or now it is an opportunity for growth, and it also makes you relatable. And so if your customers see some of that stuff, like, oh, shit happens to him too.
Yeah, that's, with my social media, I try to do that as well. Again, it's a fine line, because you don't want to air your dirty laundry, complain about customers, and alienate people.
Right.
Trash talk other contractors. I mean, I feel like that's just not a wise thing to do. But yeah, things go wrong, and I try to take it in stride, and I think that's relatable to people. It's like, well, this didn't work. This is what we did to fix it. Here's the result that is ultimately what the customer wanted. Like, yeah, we had to eat a little bit on this one. We didn't, whatever. It's real life,
Yeah. And I always tell guys, I go, you're so afraid to show any sign of not perfect. But if you're hiring somebody to do work, like for me, a big thing for me, where's this contractor made a mistake in the past, and how did he correct it? Right. Yeah. I've got guys that I've hired, like recently, a painter, and he made a pretty big mess up on sheen. I don't know. It was, I could have cared less, but it wasn't what we needed in the house. Right. And he knew exactly what it was supposed to be. And he's like, my mistake. And he came back and he spent an entire full day fixing it. Didn't do a change order. It was, he's like, it was my mistake. I'm the one that made him, and he fixed it. I will never get 2 quotes for paint ever again. I will just call him and say, I need these 2 rooms painted. When can you schedule it? Won't even question the price, because I know at the end I get exactly what I want. Yeah.
I mean, that's, stand behind your work. We all make mistakes. I tell people all the time, I'm an idiot. I'm learning every day, we had a job this week. Actually, a guy had rolled a feed wagon. And he's like, can you bring your excavator out and pull it up? And I'm like, sure, we'll give it a shot. Took a grade all out there, flipped it, turned it, flipped it up. Took like 20 minutes. And he's like, man, that's really impressive. And I'm sitting there thinking, like, I had no idea how. Like, I had a pretty good idea. I've watched some YouTube videos, in angles and stuff like that. Like, it wasn't 100% out of my realm, but I'm kind of like, well, we'll give it a shot, and he was really impressed. I'm like, don't be too impressed, man. Like, we're learning as we go here.
100%. Oh man. Have you always been an EMT or in the EMS services, or is that something since you've been in Beaver Creek? Like, what got you excited into that?
Since we moved into Nebraska here, that's kind of when I got to fire, and then EMS as well. So before, we were in Ohio, South Dakota, we kind of been moving around, really didn't have a place with firm enough roots to really get into anything like that. But saw a need in the community, and fits in with what I do. And like I said, I'm wired for emergency response,
Yeah.
So
is that what draws you to the EMS? Is that it's that little burst of dopamine when you get the call, or things, it's not always routine? Or what was your curiosity, or like, how do you get into doing that, especially now later in life?
Kind of the dopamine, or maybe not so much dopamine as like, I've got all these problems, right? Pager goes off and I have this problem, and I can turn everything else off, go handle that. And I'm good at managing emergencies in that sense. So yeah, it's something I feel that I'm good at. And just a little break from everything else going on is what draws me to it. And I like helping people. I mean, that's part of why I got into business, is to help people, and I get a lot of satisfaction out of helping.
Yeah, it's you and I are wired fairly similar. I mean, in college, I worked at a bar and fell in love with the whole concept and idea of it. I called it organized chaos, right? Like you have 300, 500 people in a room and it looks like it's mayhem. And there's somebody in that room that says this is exactly the way it's supposed to look. You know, I want to be that guy. Right. So for 15 years, I did that. And like when you have a problem at 2:00 in the morning with 400 people in the building, like it's like, oh shit, that's a serious problem. Whether it's a brawl or a water line break or toilet getting smashed out, flooding, like it's not like, well, we'll deal with it tomorrow. Like you have to deal with it right now. Yep. And when we got out of that industry and I got into manufacturing, I'm like, oh, we can redo this and we can change this marketing and we can get this, you know, we'll redesign how that done. And everything takes processes and everybody's got to touch it. And what used to be able to be accomplished in 1 to 5 days. And I'm like, well, this is now going to take 1 to 5 months. This is too slow for me.
Yeah. And that's the pace is what I like, you know. I listened to a military strategist talk one time, and he was like, you know, worry about the next thing and the thing after that. And when I can get in that mindset where I'm worrying about this thing and that thing, you know, versus laying there thinking about all of the things that don't really matter, right? Because things are going to change. You're not going to get to that fourth thing without some sort of major change. So I like to be in that pocket of I can focus on one thing, knock it out, get the next thing done. It's those long drawn out processes that I dread. And I, you know, you can't escape them all, but you know, I do my best to escape them.
Yeah. I mean, I'm guilty of this too, right? On a bad week, I would say I'd spend half my time either comparing myself to others and looking at myself like, well, I'm not good enough, or who makes me think I could be doing this, or dreading over all the what ifs on the negative side. And then, you know, Saturday comes and you kind of disconnect and you got some things to do outside of work. And by that evening, you're like, I wasted half my week doing nothing, feeling like I was getting work accomplished, just worrying about shit. Yeah.
Yeah. That's been a constant struggle. I'm getting better. You know, I feel like I get better every day, and, in just the things that are out of your hands, I'd spend so much time, and still do occasionally. I'm not perfect, but you know, if it's out of your hands, don't worry about it. Like, because there's nothing you can do about it. So you just do the best you can with what you have. And then when that comes up, you take it as it is and move forward.
Well, and a good example, because we've went through this recently with one of our businesses, but you know, you get kind of into a cash flow crunch, right? And then you sit at your desk and you're like, oh my God, all right, we've got these 2 jobs coming up, and then the calendar's empty after that. Well, if I don't have any work after these 2 jobs, and you'll spend an hour and a half, what ifs. I'm like, if you just spent that same hour and a half calling 5 contractors or reaching out to past customers and actively doing something, you probably could have put at least one thing on the calendar.
Yeah, that's something I run into all the time. Like if I could perpetually be 2 weeks out, right? That's the dream. Yeah. You know, because more than 2 weeks, you get stressed about the schedule. Less than 2 weeks, you're like, But every time, you know, you're getting down, you got a week worth of work ahead of you, you know, and you're like, oh my gosh, like this is it. It's done. After these 3 jobs are done, like we're gonna have to shut the doors.
Yeah, exactly.
And so you worry about it, and then you get down to 2 jobs in the last job, and you're like, oh gosh, here it comes, you know, we're done. And then next thing you know, one day your phone rings, and now you're 2 months out again.
Yep.
Every time. And every time I tell myself I'm not gonna worry about it anymore, because it just happens. And especially the way I'm set up too, like I work to keep a very low overhead. It doesn't take a lot to keep the lights on. So even when things get slow, there's other parts of my life I can go to and keep things. There's always something to do, right?
Yeah.
But so trying to get it to not worry about the schedule as much, because every time I worry about it, then it's like, when it's done, it's like, why did I waste the brain space on that? Because now I'm on the other side of things. I'm buried.
Yep. It's funny because like I'll work with these newer businesses, whether it be on, helping them set their business up on the back end, or if they want to talk about marketing services, things of that regard. And I used to have a different approach, and now I'm just more myself with them, but they'll be like, this is exactly what I want my schedule to be. I want to be booked out 4 weeks. I want to have this. I want to do these 4 projects. And I want this, this, and this. And I used to be like, okay, well, let's talk about that. And now I just kind of laugh a little bit. And I'm like, well, I want it to be 78 and sunny every day in Illinois, and that shit ain't going to happen either. So,
but on the average, it all averages out, right?
Yeah. I'm like, buddy, you're planning the perfect month, not the perfect business, because that is not the ebbs and flows of business ownership, right?
No, absolutely not.
Yeah. Oh, man. I want to shift topics a little bit. We can come back to you and your excavation and everything in a little bit, but I've been biting my tongue, but I'm super intrigued to learn more about your wife, what drove her to get into beef nutrition, and a little bit of her journey, and how you two do the ranching and the nutrition thing within your community, or maybe even bigger than that.
So my wife's a lot smarter than me. She has a master's degree in ruminant nutrition. And it's just kind of something, she grew up on a farm, something she's always been passionate about. So we're in Ohio, moved to South Dakota State for her to get her master's, and then ultimately wound up here. Lived in town when we first moved here, and she covers 10 counties in the southwest part of Nebraska for the university. She's the beef specialist, or livestock systems, I think is her official title.
And she works for the University of Nebraska?
Yes. So she's kind of the liaison between like what's going on at the university and then what's going on the farm. So if a producer has a question about, feed rations or this or that, they talk to her. I don't understand it all. It's way out of my league. So yeah, then we lived in town when we first moved here, and then we're able to buy a small farm outside of town, which really worked out. I needed room for my business, and she wanted cows. So now we run some cattle and sheep. And then we also have chickens and whatnot here too. And then this year we got into farming. We're doing a little bit of our own hay, because why spend $2,500 on hay a year when I can spend $25,000 and do it myself is where I'm at.
I was wondering where you're going with that. I love the reality of it.
Yeah, it's more the farming side of thing and ranching is a little bit more of a passion project for us.
Yeah. Why pay a dime when I can pay $1? That's silly.
Yeah, and do it myself, and spend time
and spend hours of my time doing it.
Yes, it keeps her happy. We enjoy it, and it's great for the kids.
Yep.
That's how we wanted our kids to be raised, and then we're able to have our own beef and lamb. I can have steak every night if I want. So that's good for us.
That's awesome. Tell me a little bit about the Laborie stock and range. That's another business she owns in addition to working at the university? Is that correct?
Yes, that's our farm.
That's your farm. Okay.
Yes. So we do the beef and lamb is our main part of that. We sell wholesale and retail on that side of things.
So when she's out working with other farms, that's all university. It's not not that stock and range business.
Correct. Yes. That's okay. University is her day job. And then we, I always say she runs the farm. It's her farm. I'm just her hired man.
Okay. Well, you made that joke before we started, like I'm just her hired man. So I assumed that she was doing like analysis, nutrition, or different things at farms through that stock and range business. I didn't realize that was just the ranch.
Yeah, that's just the ranch. But
Gotcha.
of course, she's a very scientific person, so she's always got some sort of experiment going on here at home. She's always feeding different stuff and trying different rations and things like that, which makes her better in her job because she can say, well, this is what we did and this worked for us. So yeah, that's kind of just another faction that we have started since we bought this place out here.
Awesome. So neat, man. I love talking with guys that they have a wide range of ideas, passions, and then their spouse or partner is kind of the same way. It makes life interesting.
Yeah, there's never a dull moment around here.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. I want to talk to you guys for a second about our newest software. It's called Toolbox. We've been talking to JR today, and we've been talking a lot about, having some systems, some process, some structure in your business. If you're really lacking in that, or if the software you're currently using feels inadequate or not good for you, guys, that's the reason I built Toolbox. I've actually spent countless hours looking at it from how you actually do work, what you need to be able to improve upon to increase the customer experience. And that's what the whole backbone of Toolbox is. It's not just a data collection software that you have to do all the work. We kind of help guide you and build you through that. We have it so that you can download it or sign up for it for free and use it to create 5 free estimates. So no credit card required. You can get in there, you can play with it, you can learn, see how it works before you ever have to commit to spending any money on it. There's no long contracts. It's a monthly a monthly fee if you want to continue using it. I think it's an amazing tool. I'm extremely proud of it. We're still taking feedback from everyone that's in there. So if you do sign up for it, please use it. Please reach out to me. Let me know what you loved about it, what you hated about it, what you wish you had. That's how we're going to grow this software and become really good for you guys in the trades. So please check out Toolbox. The link's in the show notes, or you can go to toolbox.com. It's TULBOXX. Let's get you back to the episode. Real quick, I know a lot of guys out there, you've got quite a few that do, land clearing, right away work and all that. There's still, I know you sold your equipment for that, but were you did it surprise you, or did you have to submit? Because I'm trying to ask a question without giving away the question too early, and I'm definitely failing at it. So I'm just going to get to the point. You were featured by Diamond Mowers for some of the work you do because of the equipment you used. Mm-hmm. Did they reach out to you because something you posted? Was it kind of a shock up front? And what was that experience like? And did that change your perception of, that portion of the industry during that time because you now had a vendor relationship?
I always try to stay as close to the vendors as I can. I think that one kind of started, I had an issue with my head that was definitely a manufacturing issue. And I reached out to them and said, hey, this was the problem. This is how I fixed it. Just trying to, I'm like, I'm not mad, but this is the problem. This is how we fix it. I just wanted you to know, and send them some pictures of some of the issues it had. And which they were aware of it in that, and it's already fixed it. But just keeping that dialogue open, because I want everybody to grow, right? In equipment, in cattle, and anything else, and when you're dealing with people, very rarely is there malicious intent when things go wrong. But if I screw something up and I don't know about it, somebody doesn't bring it to my attention, how am I going to fix it for the next time, right? So I try to keep relationships with people and share concerns and comments and praises too. And we're so connected now. It's so easy to connect. I try to just stay in the pocket with them and Bobcat and some other people as well. just because it's good to work together.
Yeah. It's I love your outlook on that. I want everyone to grow, I want everyone to reach their goals, I want everyone to succeed. When we started the marketing company a couple of years now, I think, getting close to it, one of the loudest voices, biggest supporters, text messages, phone calls, high fives, the whole 9 yards, was a guy that owned a marketing company in the excavation industry. And I was literally creating his competition. And he was like one of my biggest cheerleaders. And it was, and I knew he would be because I've known him for years. But I'm like, those are the kind of people I want to be around, right? There's enough to eat for everybody.
Oh, 100%. And that's, I'm glad you brought that up, because my competition aren't my enemies, right? And I'm small, and I have a network in the area of other small contractors. There's some overlap, and he'll get one, I'll get one, great, but there's about 3 or 4 of us that work together because there's enough work out here for all of us. And then maybe we get into a job that's like, I can't handle that myself, but if I bring this guy in and vice versa, and we'll tag team a project, one of us will, take the general and sub another guy and just work together. And that builds us all up, right? The rising tide raises all ships.
Yep.
And then there's some other guys that just try to hard nose, undercut everybody, whatever. And we give them the bad customers. Like, he wants to be a cheap guy. Like, he'll take the cheap customers.
Yeah.
But the rest of us, we just work together because why not? I mean, with emergency work, if I go on vacation, my phone rings, or vice versa.
It's still an emergency for the person calling.
Right. And so we all stay in contact, like, hey, I'm leaving town for a week. Like, can you cover me? Absolutely. And so we've done that before. A guy's come to my shop, taken my truck, my vac trailer, and gone and done a job for me. And just to, keep your customers happy and keep going. And I'd much rather have that than just be trying to undercut each other the whole time.
Yeah. And depending on what your life goals are too, right? And I know he's going to call and text me when he listens to this episode, whether it be the same day or a week or two later. But my friend Cody out in Colorado, he started out just him, had a great project management experience, like large retaining wall company, like civil sized projects, things like that. Was doing well by himself, partnered with another contractor to take a job that was a little too big for both of them. That was almost 2 years ago. They might as well just be one company because they haven't done work individually since. And the amount of growth they've experienced in that time frame, it's wild, right? Because they're sharing the burden, sharing the load, they're sharing the equipment, and they, if they haven't already, I don't think they have yet, but they're going to become one company, right? They're going to end up merging. His goals is to grow and like to hit a certain threshold and be doing certain types of projects. But it probably shaved 3 to 5 years off his journey by partnering with somebody else.
Oh, absolutely. That's it. Not even in the excavation side of things, but, I've got a good friend who's an electrician, and he's got a backhoe for his skid steer. And I hit him up one day. I'm like, dude, like, just hire me to do your digging. Cause he's telling me how busy he is and everything. And it's like, I'll do your digging. You pull the wire, you do all your stuff, let's work together on this. And yeah, sometimes I feel like we're one company because we'll be working together for so long. But it works out. And then I also feel like it's easier to bill that way because I can just, I'm subbing for him. I can bill the true costs. I don't get that like, oh, it's this little old lady, thing in the back of your head of and undercut yourself. I think that's my biggest problem is undercutting myself. But it works so much better for both of us because we can do the part we're good at, right?
Yep.
And So yeah, working together, smaller businesses working together. It's because you're basically scaling your own business when you need to and pulling it back when you don't. So it really keeps your overhead down.
100%. I mean, terrible example for small businesses, but I mean, ESPN's currently doing that right now. They're laying off all these sportscasters, right? But they're just looking at the model saying we've got all this overhead, this, all of it in-house, as expenses. And then we licensed Pat McAfee for a shit ton of money, but it's his production company. It's his staff. It's his this. And we just get to, it's a one flat fee. And I always looked at that like, it's no different than businesses, right? Like if you're a septic company, you don't need to hire a plumber to do the connections or, if you're doing that type of work, just partner with a great plumber, because if you don't need them, you're not paying the payroll or the work comp, or you don't have to give them a truck and fill it with tools. It sucks on the bill when you get it, but it doesn't suck because you should know it's coming. So it should have been built into the bid eventually,
Right. And then we all get to eat and it's, that's like the vac trailer, some of my other buddies are like, man, maybe I should get one of those. And I'm like, why? Like, just call me, you have things I don't have. So like, why should we all have a vac trailer or all have a trencher or all have this? When out of, let's say, the three of us, only one vac trailer is going to be running at a time, and two will be sitting out of our pool. So it's a way for all of us to scale and keep our overhead lower, and it works out really well.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important to build that community in any market, but I think it's almost essential when you're in more of that rural size marketplaces.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, you have commercial and agriculture and residential. Well, commercial, agriculture, residential, and municipal are my four areas. And, the thing about the commercial economy and the farm economies, they're usually inverse. So if one's big, the other one's not. But right now,
the beautiful thing about it.
Yeah. Right now, everything's a little slow as far as that. I mean, it's moving, but nothing's really booming right now. It's not like in a bigger area where there's less opportunities. I don't know if I want to say less opportunities, but there's less people. So by less people, there's less jobs.
Right.
Sometimes. And so if you crowd a space, that's another thing. The mulching just got so crowded. I feel like I got out at a good time. I mean, the kid that bought the business, he's doing really well. But he travels a lot. I didn't want to travel anymore. But once in like big earth moving contractors, dozer, scraper type guys, there's some big ones around here. And I feel like it's a very crowded space. And I'm able to kind of pick up their crumbs. I do a lot of stuff that they don't want to mess with. Yeah. And I can slip right in there and do that. So, and then working with the other smaller guys, it works out better for us because there is plenty of work for everybody, and there's no sense fighting.
Yeah, and you didn't directly say this, but I get the feeling, and whether you did it on purpose or just kind of happened on its own, I think a lot of guys need to start looking at growth in their business this way. If you've got a couple core clients, i.e. municipalities, right? If you're doing commercial work, a couple great GCs, instead of looking to do more of the same service in a larger area, it's okay to look at that customer and go, what other problems can I solve for them? It would be no big stretch for you to start telling your ag customers that you can handle all of their agricultural fence install and repair.
Yes, and that's kind of what's driven some of my, where I'm at is I would say I probably have a dozen core customers, is that, I mean, there's at least 6 that I know I could call right now and be like, hey, I need this much work. What do you got for me? And they're going to find something. But then you get that core built up, and you kind of listen to what they need, what their problems are, because that's the other thing. You can know what you want to do, but if nobody wants that done,
right,
it's not going to do you any good.
Yeah.
And that's
service market fit,
right? So we do a lot of water lines and cattle tanks and stuff like that, because that's what, like, oh, I need a guy to trench. I need a guy to do this. And it's like, okay, well, we bought a trencher and got into that. And so, yeah, it's all about my customer. I have the best customers on earth. That's why I have been successful, is because I have good customers. That was a hard thing to learn. I had some bad customers. When you start out, you're hungry. You're taking everything because you got a cash flow, right? Cash flow. Now that I'm more established, cash flow isn't as important as it was before. So I can be more selective on what I'm doing. And
can I take just 2 seconds? Some guys out there are going to go, bullshit, cash flow is not as important, and revenue is not as important, because if you've got a little bit of a savings built up and you've got your operating expenses, all that, then you still can cash flow your company. And I think I just wanted to make sure we clarify, like, for some people out there, like,
that's what I meant.
I knew exactly what you meant, but someone out there is going to go, bullshit, cash flow is still important.
It's important. It's not as much of a concern.
Yeah,
I guess,
because you've built your business for it. Yeah.
Yes, and so now I can be a little bit more selective, and I got to fire some bad customers, right? Because it's like, again, profit. It's all about the profit, not the gross. The gross doesn't matter. I don't care about if you did $6 million worth of business. So it allows me to be more selective in my profit mark. I can work 3 days a week and have better profit than I did when I was working 7 days a week. So
let's talk about that for a few minutes. How did you design that, and like what numbers were you looking at when you started getting more granular to make sure the profit was protected? What shift in your mind happened? Because this is a big topic that I talk about a lot, and I have a lot of factual opinions, I guess I would say.
So that big shift came when I had the big equipment, the trucks, everything else. I'm just like wanting to get bigger and bigger, more stuff. And it was wearing me out. And that's when I really started peeling back. It's like, okay, how much is this really making me? It's bringing in a lot of money, but like a side dump eats a lot of tires. It's like, yeah, I'm bringing in all this money, but it's going back out, And so then you look at what's left when you're done, and you're like, man, I could have sat at home today and woke up, lit $100 on fire, went back to bed, and been better off, right? And you still have those days. But that's why, and I work hard to not get complacent. I look at my numbers every 2-3 months, and I'm like, what's making me money? What isn't? If something is consistently not making me money, and taking up a significant amount of my time, you got to let it go. And then you may find new avenues of, this is really, I did this, I got into this because a guy asked me, and man, I did pretty good on that. Maybe I need to find more of that work or whatever. And it's, I started out mulching, got into more like residential work and then utilities, and who knows, in another 5 years, I may be doing Mass X. I don't know. I mean, it's just, it's a constant changing target. And And yeah, maybe I will, maybe in 5 years we'll talk again and I'll have 24 employees and have the side dumps again. I don't know,
Right.
And it's not that I'm being short-sighted, but I think there's so much that changes so quick. Life changes.
Well, you could partner with one of your so-called competitors, more of one of your network. An opportunity could arrive. You guys could partner, and because you're sharing the load and the opportunity to do it means you have to bring on this equipment and this employees, and you do the cost analysis. You're like, yeah, let's do it. Right. So you're right. You do never know.
And I'm not going to try to outguess it.
Right.
I mean, I just kind of have to look at everything as it comes. And there's been a lot of shrink and swell in my business. I'll start buying some more equipment and then I'll get rid of some equipment. And there's never going to be this is it. We got it, and that's where I said earlier about if you're not growing or dying, as far as scale, you can maintain, but it's work to maintain. You can't just sit on your laurels and be like, God, this is working. And then this will work forever, because it's not.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know a lot of guys that reach a certain threshold of profit with their excavation company and they don't want to grow it anymore. Like you said, they're maintaining it, but they're using the cash from that to fund Airbnbs, Toro rentals, rental properties, so they, as a money generating person, are still growing. It just isn't in this particular vertical. And it's a choice they made. Right.
And that's our focus, my wife and I's focus on growth this year has been the farm. So we've been inputting a lot of cash into that. And really, the excavation business, we're just really trying to maintain, where we're at right now. And that may flop next year. Who knows? So it's keeping your finger on the pulse of where things are. But like I said, I'm not driving a King Ranch Super Duty. I got a 2017 XL crew cab, but I'm happy. I'm a very content person. We have a nice place, great place to raise kids. I can take some time off when I want. I can take time off the middle of a Friday to talk to you. That's where I want to be. I don't want a boat and a Harley, and if you do, that's great. That's if that's what you want, go for it. But I just, if this is my peak, I've made it in my eyes.
That's so awesome. It's so awesome just to hear you be comfortable overall. I think too many guys are always uncomfortable with themselves, not their business.
Well, and you could things be better? Absolutely. I mean, but if you're not content with where you're at, there's definitely some stages of your life you need to really put your nose to the grindstone and sacrifice a little bit short-term for long-term gain. But if you're just beating yourself in the ground all the time to try to get to the next level, next thing you know, you turn around and my twin girls are 7 now. And it's like, man, if I would have not taken the time with them, throughout their life, and you don't get that time back. So I think it's important to find a place where you can be content and still grow. They're not mutually exclusive. It's just a little bit slower growth if you're taking the time to enjoy your life as well. It's a balancing act.
Yeah. So, I learned this from a pastor, and I used to listen to a bunch of different podcasts. So I don't remember which pastor it was, but everything happens in seasons in your life. And I feel like if you can get that framework in your head of what season am I in my life, right? Am I in builder season and I'm willing to sacrifice things to grow? It could be something personal, business, whatever. I just went through a burnout season and excuse me, that was the most burnout that I might've ever been in my 48 years. And I didn't record a podcast interview for over 2 months. I was waking up in the morning like, what's the bare minimum I need to do so the wheels don't fall off? I would either want to go back to bed or I just don't want to do it. Or like I was mentally just burned out. And I just told myself, like, it's a season. If I fight the season, it'll last longer. I'll be more miserable. And like sometimes you have to have that grace in that season to be like, it's okay. I don't have to be 100% optimal every day, every month, every year. Winter's coming, and that winter is just a season. It could just be that you're feeling blah and it just extends, or it could be some big things happen in your life. Like remember when my mom and dad got sick, they were the priority. It wasn't the business. Mm-hmm. So that was a seasonal thing that I had to go through. And then you have, but for me, like being able to frame everything as a season, it's a good way for me to go, oh, it's not going to last forever. I don't know if it's going to last a week or 2 months, but we know it's not going to go forever. And then I can also look at things that I'm doing in my life like, oh, is this a season or is this a habit that I'm creating, like good or bad?
Right. I always tell my wife, because it's all seasons. Sometimes everything's great. And then other times you're like, it's over.
Yeah.
Right? But I always tell my wife, and sometimes it burns her up because she's like, you're just way too, easygoing on this. But I always tell her, I said, we've never not made it yet. We've been lower, and even if this dips low, like we haven't not made it yet. And, it might suck, but we're going to figure it out. If I have to go do whatever, flip burgers or whatever to make things work, if the last job was in Louisiana and I had to drive to Louisiana to make things work, I do it. And that's, I think that's important to know, but I've never not made it yet. And I think more people need to tell themselves that if you're here, you're making it, But
I think the moment that I would say start an LLC, but that you don't even need that. You could be a sole proprietor too as a business setup, right? The moment that you start offering to the world that you are a business that can solve a problem, whether it's excavation or anything else, I think you've made it because you're in the small percentage of people that actually took the leap and like got over the fear. There's, imposter syndrome is real.
Oh, I have no idea what I'm doing.
Wow. And you're 10 years in. And you're 10 years in, right?
Yeah.
Imagine day one.
Yeah. Oh, I look back at some of the stuff I did and how I did it. I'm like, I had no business doing that. Right. Absolutely. Because I jumped in feet first. I quit my job in manufacturing and just bought a machine and had one job. And like, that was it. And like sink or swim, you get into it and I don't know. It's just how I do things. It's just go for it and figure it out. But I'm not going to say I know everything either. There's a lot of stuff I don't know.
Right.
But just trying to get the only person I try to compare myself to is myself from yesterday.
Love that. I love that. And I think it's also important when you hear people say, oh, it must be nice, right? Like, oh, look at JR. Oh, it must be nice.
A friend of mine and I were actually discussing that the other day because it burns me. We always send back like when we're working at like 9, 10 o'clock at night, like, hey, dude, must be nice, right? And we get that a lot because, we bought this place out of town. It's a beautiful place and we get that a lot. And people will be like, oh man, it must be nice. And it used to burn me up. Now I just say it is. It is nice.
It must be nice is actually a foreign language, in my opinion. And when you translate it, it just means, oh God, I just had a mental break. Hold on. It must be nice. I wish I had the balls to do what they did. That's what it means, right? Because you'll never meet a business owner who's been through the grind or who's growing or who's already succeeded ever look at you and say, oh, it must be nice.
Right.
Right. So everyone that says that is down here who's never taken the leap of faith in themselves.
Yep.
Right. They've stayed small.
Yep.
And actually, when they say it must be nice, it's not about you and your business. It's about their insecurities. Like, God, I was never able to do that.
Yeah. And that's why they say it must be nice. I tell them it is, because it is nice. I live a very nice life. I'm very content with my life, but it's a lot of damn work. It's nice, but it's a lot of damn work. And that, again, it's all about what's your expectation in life,
Yep.
It's different for everybody. You may be comfortable doing a 9 to 5 and my wife and I talk about that all the time. Before kids, when we both work in 9 to 5s, we're like, what do we do with our time? Like, I had cars and hot rods and we went on trips all the time and stuff, but we look back at it, it's like, but it wouldn't be fulfilling now.
Yep.
In this season, go back to that, in this season of life, that would be fulfilling. Yeah.
And I think business owners, a majority of us, we're just wired a little bit different.
Oh yeah. I'm unemployable. That's why I'm a terrible employee. I mean, I really learned that in the manufacturing job that I was in, because I was salaried. I was a manager and I was expected to be there this many hours a week. Right.
Right.
And some weeks I'm just sitting there milking the clock to get my hours because, the work's done. And then there's other weeks where I don't have enough time to get what needs done. And then I like in my business, if I can go really hard for 2, 3, 4 weeks, right? And then just take a lazy week, I'd rather do that than just sit in this box of, this is the time you're allowed to solve these problems. They may be this many problems, or maybe this many problems, but to be able to just handle the flow as it comes, being a business owner works so much better for me. And I like the variety. I like being different places every day, doing different things. It's just, I would definitely say I'm a weirdo. I will be the first to admit I'm a weird dude. And this is what works for me.
Right. And for me, this is a great example. And it was literally yesterday, right? Had a meeting in the evening, a brainstorming meeting with a couple guys, helping them out. Got done about 9:00. Hadn't ate dinner. So we just went out and grabbed something. And the whole time I was out, my mind's just running, right, from the meeting. And I get home and I open up my computer and I'm like, I'm going to just put a few notes and thoughts down so I don't forget it and I can pick it up tomorrow. I put the computer away at 4:45 this morning. Yeah. I missed the dog's vet appointment at 8 a.m. It's like, I just couldn't stop doing it. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, oh, one more thing. And but if I was working for somebody else and it was their business, their vision, their dream, I wouldn't even have thought twice about it after the meeting. I'd be like, oh, those guys will figure it out. Right. But I'm just wired different. All of us are.
I'll wake up middle of the night and just like, I'll just come out here to the office and start doing stuff. I hate paperwork. You can ask my colleagues in EMS. I will do whatever it takes to avoid doing paperwork on the ambulance. I mean, I will go through great lengths to avoid paperwork. But sometimes, and that's the other thing, it's like working with how your brain works, right? Everybody's wired different. And for me, if I wake up 2, 3, 4 in the morning and I'm wide awake, I'll just come out here and burn out some invoices. And it's like being able to take that motivation when you have it and apply it. And when you run your own business, you get to work half days. You just get to pick which 12 hours it is, you know?
You just get to pick what 12 hours it is. Yeah. But again, like if you were a welder and you had this wild idea on a new way to improve the timing or to minimize weld time per assembly, and you get that idea at 8:30 at night, you don't even have the ability to go in and test it or play with it or tinker with it.
Yeah. And see that's in the manufacturing side of things, that just drove me bonkers.
Yeah.
Was,
and then when you wake up the next morning after you slept on it, you're like, yeah, I'm not going to worry about it. Like, so like how much status quo, and
yeah, it was definitely like, this is your box, stay in your box. Do that. And it's like, I don't even know where my box is anymore.
Yeah. I mean, I ran a manufacturing company for almost 9 years. In fact, it's one of our customers, do more equipment. So, quick plug, Diamond Mowers is also one of our vendors. So we have those available at Skid Steer Nation, not the mulchers, but the stump grinders. But yeah, when we ran the manufacturing company, I mean, those guys would just they'd drag, you could literally hear their heels dragging on the concrete floor in the morning and at the night. Like you knew when the shift started, you knew when it ended, because you just had to listen for that clunk, clunk, clunk. And I'm like, guys, like how do we get a little excitement in here, right? So
I lasted 6 months in manufacturing. I got brought on as a floor manager, a walk-in boss, so to say, and it just like really quickly learned like this place is going to eat my soul. So luckily for me, I was the top of the pyramid. Like I ran the whole company. Right.
After a short amount of time being there, and I would just get to the point. I'm like, hey, here's our goals for the week. Here's where these 3 departments need to be, and here's what the shop looks like. I don't give a shit if it looks like that Thursday at 2:00 or Friday at 5. When it looks like that, everyone gets to go home, and I'll see everyone on Monday. And their eyes would be like, is this a joke? I'm like, nope. Because the output I was going to get was going to be better than them just doing their 8 hours a day.
Right.
Right. And like the owner of the company, he'd come in on a Friday and be like, where is everybody? I'm like, I sent him home. They're like, oh. And he didn't even question it. He's just like, okay.
Yeah. And that's so the guys that I was in charge of, it was all piece rate. Which had a lot of benefits, but the flow, we're at the end of the process, right? And so the flow coming to us was and trying to keep them busy. And so sometimes there'd be stock ready for them to go, and the people above me be like, oh no, we want to be here on Friday. And I'm like, man, they could bang all this out and just stay home Friday. Like that's what I would want to do. And
right.
I was in a spot where I couldn't sneeze without asking above me. It like I said, I'm wired for efficiency. Let's do the work. Let's get it done. Let's move on. And it wasn't a good fit for me.
And there's corporations are, guilty as charged of this, but even smaller companies who think they need to operate like a corporation get, those too many layers, the Chiefs versus the Indians scenario, right?
Right. And
I remember he was an engineer. He's passed away since then, but he owned that manufacturing company. And he told me this story once, and I'm going to give you the abbreviated version of it, right? Toothpaste manufacturing company kept shipping a bunch of empty boxes, and like there wasn't getting a toothpaste tube in every box. So their customers were like, hey, we ordered 10,000. There's, 500 missing, and they're randomly through it. So they hire a consulting firm that comes in and spends 6 months assessing the line and doing this and coming up with ideas. And they finally come up with the idea to like put a scale on the line. So as it reaches the shipping and packing, like if the scale was empty, it would stop the line. A customer, an employee come over, remove the empty box, restart the line. They are all celebrating it. The owners were excited because this was going to solve the empty box problem. And like they check the numbers every day, like, oh my God, we had 70 boxes today that were empty. And then like, oh, we can fix this. And they felt great because they're shipping full orders. Well, over time, they quit checking every day. They just assume it goes, that's the normal workflow now, right? And one day they open it up, the app, and he looks at it and goes, "Oh my God, the line hasn't stopped once in 4 weeks. Like, we're shipping empty boxes again. The scale's not working right." And he runs down in a panic and he's all freaked out. He's like, "We got to stop. We got to figure this out." And the guy's like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "The line hasn't stopped in 4 weeks." And the manager's like, "Oh yeah, Carl, who works the line, was tired of walking down to remove the empty box and hit the button. So he went to the store and he bought a fan and he set it up right here in front of before it hits the scale, and it blows off the empty boxes before it gets to the scale."
Yeah, that's
and to me, the moral of the story is go work with the guys that actually do the work to find the solution and get it out of the office.
I'll give anybody a chance. Like the guy who's doing it, like if you got a better way, let's check it out, because and I think it was Walter Chrysler that said he gives the hardest jobs to the laziest man, because he's going to find the most efficient, easiest.
Yeah. $1,000,000% on that. Right.
So
there's a lot of, be a lazy owner, because if you come at it with a lazy perspective, you'll find the simplest, easiest, most efficient way to fix it.
Oh yeah. And that's, I mean, how I do a lot of things. I'll do something. The hydrovac is a good example. Like I'm doing all this hand digging. Like, this sucks, right? Like there's got to be a better way. And so, which can get you in trouble too. Sometimes you overspend on equipment that you don't really need. Like sometimes you just have to do it, right? But yeah, it's like I'm always looking what's the most efficient, simple. Look for the simple solution. Don't overcomplicate it. Is there a manual control or a fan to blow the box off? Like simple things like that. And I think that's why I'm always talking to other guys about what's working for them, what's not. Can I apply it to me? And I also think it's important. My circle of guys I talk to every day, we're all in different industries. I think it's easy to get in a loop of, I'm just talking to guys that do what I do, right? But business is business, no matter what you're doing. So yes, but sometimes like one buddy of mine, he's in transportation, and I'll bring a question to him like, "Yeah, we got this going on." He'll be like, "Why don't you do it this way?" It's like, sometimes that outside perspective of somebody who's not, we're not just getting a continual feedback loop of people in the same business. Somebody else who's like, "Why don't you do it this way?" And it's, well, nobody's ever done it that way before. But
JR, I'm glad you brought that up, because for the last 15, maybe even 20 years, the last industry I look at for innovation is the industry I'm in. I look at that industry as like, all right, what are the KPIs that I need to track and be better at, right? Like, so like take Skid Steer Nation, for example. It's an online store selling attachments. Mm-hmm. Other than website traffic and a few things like that, that's all I track on our competitors. And all of the inspiration, whether it be for page layouts or for descriptions or, how we do the work, I go look at other industries that are, like women's cosmetics. You know how much money women's cosmetics has spent to make the perfect website page so that girl buys the makeup, right?
More money than I'll ever see.
You don't have to like steal it, but you can mimic it, right?
Yeah.
What's the layout look like? What's this? We actually did a test, and like if you go to Skid Steer Nation, like the buy now button's orange. Do you know why it's orange? Because Amazon spent millions of dollars to figure out that buy now with an orange produced better than buy now with a green. So if it works for Amazon, who am I to reinvent the wheel?
Right. And that's why, like, I listen to a lot of podcasts and machines and stuff. I don't listen to a lot of industry podcasts.
Yeah.
In my industry, I want to listen to, different arms of the world, a lot of agriculture and other things. It's like, how can I take what they're doing over here and apply it to what I'm doing? Because at the end of the day, business is business. It doesn't matter if you're making washing machines or, mowing lawns. It's all, It's all overhead, sales, profit, right?
Yep. Yeah. And that's, we get a lot of feedback from the guys that, from the people that listen to our podcast here. And one of the big things I get back as feedback is we don't just focus on excavation or how to or equipment specs, or because honestly, that's the least intriguing thing for me talking with guys like you. I personally want to learn how you constructed your life with and without your business, and like what troubles you went through and what hurdles you had to get through, and how you made those aha moments, whether it be to sell the mulching division and go bigger into utilities, because that's the real life, right? And it transcends excavating, but we get so caught in our own little bubble and the own little work we do. And I think it's just nice to have these conversations so guys can be like, oh, I'm not alone. I don't have to stay in this niche. Oh, it's okay to say no to work because it means I can spend time with my kids. And I feel like that's what I try to focus on more. Excavation is just the vertical we use to have those conversations.
Absolutely. And that's why I like listening to yours. I mean, it's because there's different ends of it, and there's no answer. And I feel like in today's world, everybody wants a black or white, right? Like it's got to be this way or this way. And that's not the case. There's going to be a guy listening to me talk and he's like, this dude's an idiot. None of this is applicable to me. And that's fine, but there might be one other weirdo out there that listens to this and be like, man, that's the season I'm in.
And you change his life.
And that's why I'm having these conversations and talk to people. I mean, I talk to people. I spend way too much time on my phone talking to people from all over the country. What's applicable, what's not. There isn't one cut and dry answer for everything. And that's
right.
There's so much information out there that once, somebody's trying to say, I'm the expert, this is how you do it, and that just bugs me because it's not the case. It's different for everybody. Your results may vary. But if you can piece out, there's always some good in everything, right? And if you can piece out like a big guy talking about something he did with ROI or whatever, it's like, ooh, yeah, I can take that nugget. Everything else here does not apply, but I can take that nugget and apply it to my business. There's no one size fits all. There just isn't.
No, there isn't. And, 2 quick points. They're completely different points, but they both hit me during your little conversation there. Yeah. Well, learning from those other guys, right? Like sometimes we think we need to track everything, whether it be as a business owner or whatever else. And you'll learn from guys saying, well, if you track just this one thing, and I wish I had an example in my head that I could use, the other 3 fall in line, right? Like, so you don't need to worry about those 3 numbers, because if this number's right, then these numbers fall into line. So shortcuts and removing that stress in that regard. And then the second thing I wanted to bring up is you designed your business around the life you want today. I did the same thing 6 years ago. I also did it a year and a half ago and realized that the life I wanted 6 years ago is slightly different than the life that I want now. And I'm redesigning and reorganizing to fit my new needs. It's constant.
It's a constant updates of where do I want to be right now? What can I do to get there? What season am I in? I think, we keep coming back to that, but that's the truth. It's not the same. If you would ask me 15 years ago, if I thought I would be in Nebraska with some sheep and, doing this, I would have said, you're crazy.
You're crazy.
And maybe I am crazy, but here I am.
Yeah. And like sometimes your why changes, right? You see a lot of guys that start really struggling about owning a business after their kids leave the house and they become empty nesters because the why was the kids.
Yeah. And in this season, it's my kids. Like,
right.
When I started, it was, I wanted the toys, right?
Yeah.
I wanted the toys. And my dream car was a suicide Lincoln Continental. Like,
those are sweet.
Car. And I got one. I got a 69 460, just dark blue, black top. It wasn't really rusty, but it was like just rusty enough. You weren't afraid to drive down a gravel road, right? It was just a good runner. Love that car. I got it. And like 3 months later, I found out not only was I going to be a dad, but of twins. I sold the car. It's like, need the cash. This is, and it's like different. I moved into a different season. I'm in my dad's season now.
Yeah.
And yeah, once they're grown up and gone, we're trying to build something that's a legacy here. But like my dad, he owns a millwork lumber mill. They do like trim and cabinets and stuff like that. Very successful business, but he never pushed any of us kids to take it over. It was there if we wanted it, but he said, "This is my dream. This isn't your dream." So we're trying to build something that the kids could take over if they wanted to.
If they want it.
But if they don't, this is my dream. I'm not going to push it on them. So, I mean, so that's it. I'm not trying to focus too much on that because I want them to be happy with what they want to do as well.
Yeah. I love that. And it really just comes down to your why. Like, why are you doing it? And like mine drastically shifted a couple of years ago. So we're trying to realign everything.
It's a constant moving target and just trying to, like right now, my why is I want my kids to have a good upbringing, and to be smart, respectful, members of society someday. Like that's the most important thing. Everything else is second to that. I'll shut the business down if it gets in the way of doing that. So like 6 years ago, my why was I'm never going to let somebody tell me when I can and can't make money again. So I got to own my own business. I want to be able to travel and I want to be able to do all this. And I think online is the way to do that. And like my why was to basically support myself in a way that didn't stress me out, require me to be in one place all the time. And that was my why. It was a very selfish why. Mm-hmm. And a couple of years ago, my why shifted to, man, there's a lot of guys out there that are really damn good at their work. And how much work are they losing out? And how much stress are they creating at home because their business process or their estimates or their follow-up isn't good. Yeah.
Right. Like how many families are getting ruined and like divorces are happening because the husband's not present because of the business. So I want to make money with the software toolbox, but the why is to impact 20,000 families.
Yeah.
Because if we can make 20,000 families like less stressed by them having a way and a platform to do that, then that's the why.
Yeah. And that's, that's an important thing. And I think everybody, there's different ways of doing things, but finding what your stress is and what you're doing. And again, you can't eliminate it all, but there's a lot of things you can do to minimize that. Mm-hmm. and getting good processes, good foundations. One of the biggest things for me, I hate doing invoices and paperwork. I've said that already. Which sending invoices out is how you get paid, right? It should be our favorite thing to do.
I know.
But I hate it.
Yeah.
I hate it so much. And, when we moved out here, I didn't have a shop or anything, no outbuildings. I just, in my basement of the house here, I had an office. And, you get home at the end of the day, you have your receipts and all that stuff, invoices from your day, that all your paperwork, and you'd set it on the counter when you got in the house. You said, after dinner, I'm going to go down to the basement and do this, right? After dinner, what do you want to do? Not go back to work. So when I built this shop, I put this office in here. And when I come home every night, I park, I come in here. It takes 15 minutes, right, to do the day's work. But what I was doing before was stacking it up until there was 3 hours.
Right.
Right. And
So like having this, because when I leave here and shut the lights off and go inside, I'm done with work.
Done.
Right? I get to go be a dad. And, that was a big thing for me. But I didn't really realize that was a stress point until I didn't have it anymore,
Yep.
So I think there's a lot of inflection the guy needs to do is like sit down and like, what is bugging me? What is the hardest thing that I do, that I'm psyching myself out of, because doing an invoice isn't hard.
Mm-mm.
It's not hard at all, especially with all the software and everything available. Like it's not hard. I click it, it sends, it's right in their inbox. They can pay it, whatever. Yep. But I just don't like doing it.
I know. Yeah. And I think the biggest thing, and I don't care how long you've been in business, right? I define business growth to own a business that doesn't run you. There's like 6 steps and you have to do them in order. And like the whole book I wrote, Out of the Weeds, is defining those 6 steps. But the number one step is like you're typically in chaos, right? Mm-hmm. And until you can name the chaos and you can prioritize the chaos, you can't fix the chaos.
Right.
Now, I didn't say you need to know how to solve it and you need to make a change. You just have to go, this is not working for me. And these are the 3 areas that are killing me, right? Because now that you've defined it, we can start taking control over that and looking for ways to improve those areas. Most guys never take the time to admit that they're in the chaos because it's who wants to look at it and say, God, I'm failing anywhere.
Right. Well, and everything like getting momentum on something and you eat an elephant one bite at a time. Right. Yeah, my ducks aren't in the row, but let's start by getting them all in the same pond, right?
Yep.
Let's get, we're not going to solve it overnight, but if we take steps like, okay, now they're in the pond, things kind of leveled out. Okay, now we can get them into 3 groups, right? And then just kind of continually working towards that goal. Because I think sometimes you psych yourself out to, I have this huge problem, and I don't really know what the solution is, okay? But if you can just make that problem less of a problem and just work your way, and then pretty soon you're like, well, this really isn't that much of a problem at all.
And 100%. And my advice to guys that go through that, like the old George Washington analogy is a great one. If they gave me 3 hours to cut down a tree, I'd spend 2 hours and 45 minutes sharpening the axe. Mm-hmm. Well, in today's world, if you have this problem, spend the 2 hours, 45 minutes researching, discussing, learning. I see too many guys say, oh, I have this problem, I'm going to implement this. And it actually creates a larger problem.
Yep.
Right. Like we want things done. We want it done now. And like that research, talking to other business owners, watching YouTube videos, asking AI, like whatever it is. Because if you can get all that and your mind can collect all that and you go, oh, I think this is exactly what I want, the output's 20x better than if you just throw something together for it.
Yeah, build a system. I'm very systems based.
JR, you and I are kindred spirits.
I mean, so look at, let's go back to my EMS work. You're trained, and when you're in the moment, you default to your training, right? That's just when things are chaotic, you default to your training. You're just on autopilot. You're just doing what you're trained to do. So you're only as good as your system behind you when you're managing chaos. And it's much like a business, So when everything's going crazy and you got jobs here, there, and everywhere, you're going to default to your system. And there's a lot of things you can set in place on how you set this truck up or how you organize this or how your office, your back end, how that's working. There's a lot of different things you can do. That way that stuff can just be on autopilot and save you a lot of time. A little bit of time now saves you a lot of time later. I mean, it took me forever to go in my invoicing software and put all my parts in. I'd get a receipt and figure out the, upcharge and line item and type it in, and now it's like click, click, click. I use these parts, and it's already in the system. But it's that daunting, like, oh, I have to sit down and input all of this stuff, but it's minutes now versus hours later.
Yeah, and that's my default mechanism internally is if this takes me 2 hours, 4 hours, 4 days, and I'm going to hate every minute of it, how much time does it buy me over the next month, year, 5 years?
Yep.
Like, what's the trade-off? What's the payoff?
And that's the same way I look at like buying tools. I always say I'll borrow a tool twice, but the third time I'll buy it, right? And that goes with renting, borrowing, whatever. It's like, I think that's what sets me apart from some other guys in the area. There's a lot of guys with skid steers, right? There's guys with mini X's, but who's got the hydrovac? Who's got the cable locator? Who's got demo saws and concrete breakers and all that support stuff behind it? It just makes you a lot more efficient and more appealing to a customer because you've got, you got the tools, you got the systems. I mean, a tool's a system, a system's a tool. It's all, whether it's something you hold in your hand or your software or your scheduling or whatever, it's setting yourself up for success.
Yep. Yeah, and you don't have to have the exact steps or the exact knowledge on how to input a specific system, right? But to me, build out, like if you're building scaffolding for the side of a house, you know that scaffolding layer 1 is at 6 feet, next one's at 12, 18. So at least like build out that framework of like, all right, where in the process does this system need to live? Mm-hmm. Because then at least you're starting to build the steps to how you get there, right? You can't jump the 10th hurdle if you can't clear the first 9.
Yep. And
then you can figure out the individual steps of those systems as you go. Like it does not have to be perfect day one.
No. And just if you just work on being a little bit better every time.
Yeah.
They build themselves. I mean, that was when I got into utility work, water lines, inventory. I was not in a place to just go out and drop 20 grand in inventory, right?
Right.
And so what was my trade-off? I'm going and digging up a job, running to town, which here is like 2-hour round trip, right? To get the parts to fix that job. And then it's like pretty soon it's like when you run in town to get the parts, you get 2, right? Fix the job, you put 1 on the truck. I didn't go out and just buy all my inventory, but it's like, okay, I'm using these parts consistently.
Yep.
We're going to keep a couple on the truck, right? And now I've got more stuff that I don't even know just by doing it that way and just gradually building up. And, I ended up spending that money over time, but it's a lot easier to stomach than just going out and writing a check and getting all
1,000,000%. We actually implemented that exact same process and slightly different, but same philosophy with a septic company out in New York. And, over the course of a year, he filled up exactly what he needed for his inventory of parts to be able to do septic jobs. And he was calculating that, I didn't even notice the cash was missing because it wasn't a one-time check. Number one. But number 2, I'm projecting that we're saving on average 2 to 5 hours per job because nobody's stopping. Nobody's leaving. Nobody's doing any of that. But you don't have to build Rome in a day, right? Like you don't have to build it in a day.
No, but making a step momentum, and that's with parts, equipment, anything else, getting out of, you talked about, being down and just wanting to lay in bed, right? You're burned out, whatever. And we've all been there. I get there but it's like, okay, what's a small win that I can achieve? It doesn't matter how, just something really small. If I can go do that, okay, what's another win? And just keep like, once you get that momentum, because when you're feeling down, it's easy to feel down about feeling down, right? It just feeds on itself, but you get that positive momentum.
Yep.
And
that's that self-awareness I had during my stage. Like, I didn't feel down. I didn't beat myself up. I knew, I was like, you have fried your nervous system. You've been averaging 2 to 4 hours of sleep a night for 3.5 months. You took a break from work, and what did you do? You averaged 2 to 3 hours of sleep at night because you're hanging out with the guys on long weekends in Nashville. You're doing video shoots with PGA golfer John Daly. Like, you're not resting. You know, it wasn't just a work thing. It was like my body was like, I'm done.
Yeah.
Done. So I would wake up every day saying, what's the bare minimum I can do so I can get back to doing nothing? And like, that was the reward, was like, I'll handle a text message, a phone call. I thought I'd need like 3 or 4 days to just like decompress. That phase probably lasted 2 to 3 weeks. And then I'd get back into the rhythm, but I couldn't focus. So my attention span went from, getting into a project that I could dial into for 4 to 6 hours to 20 minutes. And then I'm like, I just got to switch topics. I just didn't fight it. I'm like, it'll come back. Like, just keep trying it. Yep. And then about 2-3 weeks ago, I just remember I left my desk one evening. It was like 5:45 at night. And I was like, holy shit, I was just focused since 10 a.m. this morning. Yeah. And I'm like, I'm back, baby. Yes. But I didn't fight it. Like, because if I would have fought that, I'd still be in the slump. I'd still kick myself in the rear end. And
that's for me. It's like, I just got to, whether it's sweep the shop or just like something, I just got to get that momentum back and not fight it. Sometimes I'll take a Tuesday off, right? It's like, we just had service calls all weekend. Things are crazy, whatever. And you take that tactical pause of, I'm not going to do any jobs today. I'm just going to do a little bit of this, the bare minimum, to keep things afloat, and take that day and reset. And then you're going to get more done the next day than you would have in 2 days.
Absolutely.
So it's budgeting that time and realizing it is okay to, because I run into that too. That was a struggle for me. It's like, middle of the day, I'm not doing anything, right? I'm like, I feel like such a turd because everybody else is working right now, right?
Yeah.
And then it's like, but yeah, I was out at 9:00 last night fixing a water leak while everybody else was sitting
watching television.
TV. Like, I don't give myself credit for that, right?
Yep. But
here I am the next day, like just chilling at 10:00, and it's like you. So that's a mind shift. That's a hard mind shift to tell yourself, like, it is okay to take a break. Like, that's why you got into business, right? So you can do what you wanted when you want to do it. So don't feel bad about it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I don't compare myself to having a service-based business like you guys, where you've got to actually go fulfill work, get things done for clients. But, I do operate 3 companies. And there's a lot of people like, how in the hell are you always available after 2 p.m.? I'm like, because I don't schedule shit after 2 p.m. If I can't get it done between 6 and 2, then I've got a systems problem, not a time problem.
Yep. Yeah. And I try to keep a day open a week for, just whatever, flex. If I get an emergency call, I can push a day back or office work or whatever. Like, I just try to keep that day open. And some days it's just working straight through, and some days it's a little lax, but I mean, it's just, I got to handle the things as they come, and you're never off the clock. I mean, it's my phone rings at, all the time on a Sunday afternoon. Somebody's like texting you, right? Because they're home. Like, hey, can you come do this? And it's like, man, I don't want to. I am getting better at just like letting that ride till Monday.
But, I get this a lot from guys like, well, yeah, but the customers are always getting a hold of me on the weekends. I'm like, cool, just set boundaries, but you have to respond, right? So in your phone, there's a thing called Text Expander, and there's a different name for it on Google's phones. But you could actually write an entire text message, very thoughtful, very thorough, everything, and then literally just type. You could set the shortcut whatever you want. So let's say it's 000 because whoever types 000. You type 000, and all of a sudden that entire message that you typed out, which is really nice, shows up, and you hit send. All you're doing is saying, "Hey, I saw you."
Yep.
We're just not dealing with it today, right? Call you on Monday. You just don't want to let them sit there going, well, did he get it? Should I call somebody else? Is he in town?
And I am getting better at that, but that is something also the way my mind works. It's like, a lot of times call me and it's like, okay, like, do you have sewage coming up in your basement?
Right.
Or do you want to talk about some shrubs in your front yard, so like sometimes you do have to handle it and but then if you find out it's not emergent, like, hey,
I'm out.
Let me get back with you and
I'm out. Right.
Yeah. So yeah, it's setting those boundaries, but you're always going to be on the clock and that's just how it is. And for me, sometimes it's better just to handle it because otherwise I'm going to just be thinking about it all weekend.
100%. It's that whole like, if I spend 15 minutes a day, how many hours does it save me over the weekend not worrying about it?
Right. So it's a judgment call.
Yep. I would love to be able to take this on the road and get 2 or 3 guys like yourself and a couple others that are in an area. Yeah. And just sit and record the entire thing. And if it lasts 2 hours or 4 hours, and I think you could take so much knowledge out of that for ourselves, for other guys.
Yeah. I mean, I'm always trying to learn, I want to be better than the guy I was yesterday. And I learn something every day. And sometimes you learn that don't do it that way, right? Sometimes you listen to somebody talking like, that guy's an idiot. Make sure I'm not going to do that, right?
Right.
And so it's still learning. And I feel like that's really important, is just constantly trying to learn and not narrow your mindset to just necessarily what you're doing or your industry or this. Like, there's something to be pulled from different industries, different people, and just in general. Like, I feel like if you work on making yourself, like, not my business, but myself, a better person, a wiser person, that pays dividends on the business side of things.
It's the best investment you can make, is investing in yourself. If you're listening this far into the episode, first and foremost, thank you. I truly appreciate it. I'm glad you're finding value in this. I do want to take just a couple seconds and just talk to you a little bit about our marketing company, Throttled Up Marketing. Guys, I've had so many conversations with business owners that just struggled with their marketing presence, their professionalism online, being found on Google. Everyone just has to kind of rely on some Facebook posts and word of mouth. So that's why we built Throttle Up Marketing. We built it so that we can give you that professional look you want. You don't have to work with a local company that doesn't understand excavating. This is all we do. We've priced it at a point so it's competitive and fair so that you guys get great value out of it. And there's no contracts, and you own every asset. We build you the website, you keep it. It's not like those other companies that rent it to you, and then if you ever cancel, they keep it. So everything we build is for you guys. Everything we do is to make your life, your business better and easier. I would love to work with you. We've currently got some openings for a couple people this month. So if you're looking for a high quality professional website, some help with your online presence, getting your Google business profile either verified or improved so that your rankings can go there, or hell, even running some paid ads, open up the show notes or go visit throttleupmarketing.com. But let's have a conversation, see how we can work together and how we can help you grow your business along with your online presence. Let's get back to the episode. You know, those younger kids, and I halfway remember being 18, 20 years old. Like, I think I do. I'm sure I don't remember how dumb I was at that age. But if today's world was back then, I don't know if I would have went to college.
100%. So I started in college in engineering because, everybody told me
You have to.
You're smart. If you don't go to school, you're going to end up being a ditch digging sheep herder. And turns out they were right. But I started in engineering and quickly just found out like it wasn't for me. I did 3 years, wasn't a good student. My wife actually finished her undergrad a year early and was moving to South Dakota. So I followed her out there. I tried a semester at South Dakota State and quickly found out that it just wasn't going to work. And I was better suited to go to work and learn there about industry and then help support my wife and put her through. She had scholarships and stuff, but the home life and just, support us as a unit. And so that way there wasn't a bunch of debt coming out of all that. And it was just my better place to be. And yep, I turned out to be a ditch digging sheep herder, but I'm the best one in South Central Nebraska, I would say.
100%. Yeah. I tell everyone I didn't do it until I was in my 30s. But if you could travel internationally with an open, curious mindset and just observe and I didn't learn how to run a business by traveling internationally. I really didn't learn any set specific lesson. What I learned was that it's a big world. There's a million ways to do things. And if I question why the French do it this way and the Germans do it that way and the outcome is the same, I can take that into my business and be like, well, how else is there a way to do this? It just opened up my mind that, we're so damn proud Americans. We fight hard, work hard. Nobody's going to outwork us. We grind. You meet people from Germany and they're like, yeah, I'm on sabbatical. I'm like, what does that mean? Like, oh, I take 2 months off every summer. I'm like, what? How the hell do you take two? Like, how does they not replace you in the office? Right. Like, no, we all do it. And you just start realizing that everything's different and it doesn't have to be one path.
And I'm glad you brought that up. And even on a smaller scale, and I've said this before, I grew up in a small town. And then I moved to Columbus, Ohio. So I go from small town to the hood of Columbus is where I was living, And I learned a lot that, even within our country, things are vastly different from Ohio to Nebraska and South Dakota, where I lived for a while.
Yep.
And having that knowledge of there are different ways to live or different cultures. They're not wrong. They're just different. And I think that makes me a better rounded person. And so I don't regret my time in college for being in a different place. I learned a lot, not in class itself, but as a human being living on my own in the city versus a small town. And so my wife and I have talked about this, like our kids, let's say my boy wants to come back and run the business. Great. He doesn't necessarily need to go to school, but I'm going to make him go to a larger city and live and work there for 2 years. Far enough away he can't come home for dinner. If he's got a problem, he's got to figure it out. Because I look at like my hometown, and there's the people who just stayed on the farm or didn't really go anywhere, right? And they're kind of just I don't want to be mean, but they're kind of just where they were, right? They're getting along, but they're kind of where they were. And then you see the people who went away and came back, and they're the leaders of the community and doing things like that. Because I saw how other people live and how things are different. And I think that makes you a better person overall, more understanding. And I think it's important, like after high school, that everybody goes somewhere different, far enough away. You got to figure it out
Absolutely.
for yourself, and it makes you a better person.
And don't have a closed mindset. Well, that's not how I would do it, or that's not how we do it where I'm from. And ask, I wonder why they do it that way.
Yeah, and there's things, like farming practices is one thing I compare to Ohio and Nebraska, vastly different, And I've got some farming buddies. I'm like, why do you do this? And they explain it, and it's like, okay, that makes sense. But what about this? And they're like, well, we've just always done it this way, right? So there's reasons things are different, and the majority of it is for a good reason, but then some of it is just that closed loop. We've always done it this way, and you can get into that in business and it's like, this is how we do it. This is how it's always worked. But did we ever stop to think about, yes, it worked then, but is it still working now?
Yeah. I don't know where I got the idea for this, and it was pretty great. I probably came across a little abrupt when I did it, but one of the managers at the manufacturing company asked that question, like, why are we doing it that way? He's like, well, that's just how we've always done it. So at the next meeting, we're talking about it, and that same topic came up, and I'm like, it needs to change. Like, well, but that's just how we've always done it. And I handed him 2 sticks, and he's like, what are these for? And I'm like, well, if we're just going to do shit the way we've always done it, you can use those, and I'll use this lighter.
Yeah.
Like if we always did shit the way we always did it, then we'd still be wearing sheepskin, lighting fires with sticks, and dying at the age of 27. So,
yeah, and it's good to evaluate that. Sometimes you do the evaluation, and the way you've been doing it is still the way to do it, right?
Right.
And that's okay, but like to at least look at it and make sure that that's still the best way to do it. Sometimes it is, a lot of times it is, but then sometimes it's not. And so it's important to, and I think that's where like living different places and traveling and stuff like that, seeing how different people do things. Sometimes it's like, one thing I like to bring up is one of my favorite pieces of equipment I have is a skip loader, 210 LE John Deere. And they're very regional, right? You see them in like Arizona, and then you see them in Wisconsin and Minnesota. There's a lot of them, but then other parts of the country, they aren't there, right? And I started looking for one around here because I'm like, man, that has to be a handy piece of equipment. But everyone's like, oh no, we don't have those around here. And I got one. I'm like, man, this is the piece. I love it. I actually want to get another one. So it's like, but if I was just looking in this box of where I'm at and didn't look other places, it's like, man, I'm missing out on so much just because I'm not looking at other places for ideas.
Yeah. Nope. That's so fair. That's so fair. Yeah. You got to be careful of the ripple effect too. Like sometimes if you get things moving in the right direction with your business or even in your personal life, you'll start tinkering with shit that doesn't need to be tinkered, and it ripples and creates problems elsewhere. Right. So are you fixing something in your business because it's the bottleneck and it's causing you pain? Or are you looking at it going, I think we can get a little bit better with that, and it's going to break the whole process, and then, step 1 changes, and now 7, 8, 9 are irrelevant. So you just got to look at things that way too.
Yes. It's, don't take, there is a certain, if it's not broke, don't fix it. But it's also, look, is it broke? It hasn't been broken, and we're just riding it out,
Right.
So there's a fine line of not reinventing the wheel, but sometimes tracks are better than a wheel, right? It's just, it's
100%.
different applications. It's always kind of looking, and not burn. You can burn yourself out doing that too. But dedicate a little bit of time into always looking at, okay, what's the bottleneck? What can I improve efficiency on? What's working, what's not, and
yeah. And JR, here's my best advice on, one, you have to define that there is a bottleneck. You have to say it out loud, right? Because otherwise you never fix it.
Yep. My
thing is, as a business owner, how many of the bottlenecks are you? And if you just focus on the top bottlenecks that you're creating in your company, get out of the way of your people.
Yep. Absolutely.
Right. Like if your 3 guys couldn't do a thing without calling you first, you're the bottleneck.
Right. Absolutely. Yep. Right. And there's always going to be a bottleneck too. So, and that's just the nature of it, right? Like you fix one, you fix one leak, you got another leak, right? There's always going to be that.
But is the water line compressing from 1 inch to 3/4 inch, or is it compressing from 1 inch to 1/8 of an inch? Right.
Right. So it's realizing that some inefficiencies are okay. You can't fix everything. So yeah, this is pretty inefficient, but it's going to cost me $10,000 to fix it to save $1,000, right?
I'm going to circle back to 2 hours ago when we were talking about the 80-20 rule.
Yeah.
Make it your mantra and live by it, right? 80% is 100% awesome.
Absolutely. Yep. You have to set an expectation somewhere. It's never going to be perfect.
If you can train an employee to be 80% as efficient and 80% as knowledgeable on a job as you are as the owner, that is 100% awesome.
That 80%, with employees, 80% is great.
But if you can remove 80% of the bottlenecks in your workflow, that's 100% awesome.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. If you're chasing perfection, you're going to be disappointed.
100%. Oh, I feel like that's a closing line. I don't know why. But if you're chasing perfection, you're going to be highly disappointed. I don't know where we can go from there. And we've been talking for a long time.
Yeah, I think that was probably it there, huh? That was the landing the plane, probably.
That was that was you just hitting the grand slam. Banged it out of the park on that ending. So, well, man, JR, this has been, obviously, I've enjoyed it because we talked for over 2 hours. So thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. I enjoyed the conversation. And like I said, I'm just an idiot figuring out, but I'm just trying to get better every day. And that's why I do this. And take everything I said for a grain of salt. Your results may vary, but there's something to be learned everywhere.
Absolutely, my friend. Well, guys, we'll put some links to JR's socials in the show notes. If anyone wants to reach out, thank him for being a guest or, anything in that regard, please feel free. And thanks so much for being here.
Yeah, thanks for taking the time to talk to me.
Wow, that was an amazing episode with JR. I actually had to take a few minutes before we recorded this so that I could kind of process all of that information. I love meeting guys like him who are just simple in process and simple in deliverables, but large in thinking and creative. So big shout out to JR. Guys, make sure I said it earlier, but we'll connect his stuff in the show notes. Reach out, tell him thanks for coming on the show. Give him anything you want to say to him. I'm sure he would appreciate that. Throughout the conversation, you heard me reference Out of the Weeds. Guys, Out of the Weeds is a book that I literally labored over for 2 years, taking all of the lessons I've learned from all of the contractors I've had conversations with through the podcast, through Skid Steer Nation, through the old Groundbreaking Growth Coaching Program, or just people I've met along the way, and just distill down the 6 simple steps to help you systemize your business so that you can have a business that you operate and that doesn't run you. I know not everybody's a big reader. Audiobook should be coming out soon, but until then, you can find the book on Amazon, both digital and hard copy. Head over to Amazon, search Ryan Deemer, search Out of the Weeds, or just click the link in the show notes. It's an amazing resource. The feedback on it from the guys that have read it's been amazing. I've already had guys talk about how they've implemented certain aspects of it in their business, and they're already seeing and feeling the difference. So if you're truly invested in growing your business and growing it so it doesn't burn you out, pick up a copy at Get Out of the Weeds today. Thank you, everyone, for listening to this week's episode. We're going to get back on schedule again. So until next week, keep working hard, keep thinking outside the box, and keep growing your business.